In this video, we're going to discuss exactly why you gain weight, and if you are overweight, exactly why you've put on those extra pounds and how you've put on those extra pounds. And if you want to stop gaining weight, we're going to tell you exactly how to go about doing so. Before I begin, I want to ask a question, and I want you guys to answer honestly. And if you would, go ahead and actually leave your comment, because these questions relate to the content of this video. So the questions are, number one, what was the last thing you ate? Number two, about an hour or so after you ate that meal, were you feeling more energized or were you feeling less energized? And the third question is, do you ever experience sugar cravings? So go ahead and leave me a comment. Let me know what you ate, the last thing that you ate. Did it make you more or less energized? And do you ever experience sugar cravings? So how do people become overweight? And why do we gain weight? It occurs to me that nobody ever gave us a simple explanation of why we gain weight. And there's actually a really good reason for that. Now, this is information that the big food companies do not want you to know, because if everyone knew this information, companies like Coca-Cola, General Mills, Anheuser-Busch, Frito-Lay, McDonald's, wouldn't be making nearly as much money because they wouldn't be selling you nearly as much food. And if you think that organizations like the American Dietetic Association or the American Heart Association have your back, then you should know that these organizations, which distribute most of the nutritional information to us, are actually sponsored by the big food companies like Kraft, Pepsi, M&M Mars, and the like. And if you think that the weight loss industry wants to help you lose weight, you're wrong about that too. They make $40 billion off of Americans trying to lose weight every year, and if Americans actually knew how simple it is to stop gaining weight and start losing weight, they wouldn't be making nearly as much money. Then you have Psychetruth, and we're not trying to sell you anything. We have no financial incentive to lie to you or to withhold information from you, so we are going to tell you the truth about how to stop gaining weight. So how do people gain weight? Clearly, there are a lot of different ways that people can gain weight, and everybody's body is different. But in this video, we're going to address the most common situation that most of us are in. So if I had a big, huge fat syringe and I could just find an ample fat deposit on your body, stick my syringe in, pull a whole bunch of fat out, and then analyze that fat, most of it would be due to this primary mechanism that I'm about to discuss. The majority of our extra padding or our spare tires is all about blood sugar, insulin, and fat storage. Let me explain. So we've all heard the term blood sugar, and I've talked about it in a lot of previous videos. The primary thing to understand is that we need sugar in our blood. That's what gives us energy. But at any given time, the blood sugar level of a healthy person is only about 1 teaspoon of sugar in the blood. And so anytime that you eat something that results in you having more than a teaspoon of sugar in your blood, insulin is going to release into your body, and pretty soon your cells are going to start soaking up that extra sugar and turning it into fat. It's really that simple. Whenever you eat foods that spike your blood sugar too quickly or spike your blood sugar with too high of an amount of sugar, your body's going to respond by storing that extra sugar as fat, and you will begin putting on more and more excessive weight. What exactly is it that causes a spike in blood sugar that then causes the release of insulin, then causes sugar to be converted into fat, and then our bodies to store that fat? I want to read you guys a blog post that I found. This is by Dr. Michael R. Easdies. An order of medium fries at McDonald's contains 47 grams of carbohydrates, which converts to about 47 grams of sugar, and that's almost 10 teaspoons of sugar. So when you eat these fries, you put 10 times more sugar into your blood than that required to maintain a normal blood sugar level. If you figure, as we did above, that 1/4 of a teaspoon is the difference between a normal blood sugar and a diabetic blood sugar level, the 10 full teaspoons would be 40 times that amount. Since your metabolic system has to work very hard to deal with the sugar load from an order of fries, imagine what it has to do when you add a large soft drink, a hamburger bun, and maybe an apple turnover for dessert. So basically what we're talking about is consuming excessive amounts of sugar and excessive amounts of starches or carbohydrates. And so it's kind of like blowing up a balloon, except instead of blowing up a balloon full of air and it expands, we're just blowing up our bodies with starches and carbohydrates and sugars. And the more starches and sugars that we consume, the more those sugars are going to be turned into fat, and the more we're going to expand, just like a balloon. Now, I'm not trying to say that you can't also gain weight by eating excessive amounts of fats and proteins, because you certainly can. But for the most part, most of the excessive fat that we have as the average American is coming from carbohydrates. Let's take a look at what the average person's fat actually consists of. And if we go back to our analogy of the syringe, and I'm pulling out some fat and I'm going to analyze it, let's see what we would find. The largest amount of fat probably came from processed and refined corn products. So that's your high fructose corn syrup and all of your other corn sweeteners, modified cornstarch, corn oils, and all of the myriad of other foods that they make out of corn. So that's your colas, your candies, your corn chips, and just in general, most of the items on your grocery store shelf contain some kind of processed or refined corn. And as a side note, the primary thing that they feed chickens, pigs, and cows, which we end up eating if we are meat eaters also, is actually corn. And they feed those animals corn to fatten them up. And we should just recognize that if animals eat corn and get fat, then we shouldn't be surprised if we're also eating huge amounts of corn and we're also getting fat. And if you're thinking, well, I don't really eat that much corn, then you should realize that if you're eating meat, you are eating a lot of corn because that's what they were eating. And the other thing we're driving home in this video is that most processed foods also contain a whole lot of corn or products that are made from it. And if you're still not sick of hearing about corn and you'd like to learn more about corn and the average American diet, I would suggest you check out the documentary King Corn. I believe that it's streaming and available on Netflix. So if corn is the primary source of our excess fat, our excess pounds, the secondary one is refined wheat products. So that's your white bread, hamburger buns, tortillas, your pastry items and baked goods, cereal, pasta noodles, and beer. And I just have to throw in there that most of the bakery items and breads also contain corn sweeteners as well. And I challenge you to go into your grocery store and look at the back of loaves of bread until you find one that doesn't contain high fructose corn syrup. I have actually tried this, and I challenge you to do the same. The third primary source of our excess pounds, of our excess weight, is from refined sugars. Now, this is sweeteners that actually come from sugar cane. They're all up in your candy, they're all up in your sweetened goods, but there is also a lot of added refined sugar in things that you would have never expected would contain excess sugar. And another huge source of excess fat is potatoes, especially potato chips and French fries. At any given moment, your body is either storing fat, creating and storing fat, or it's not. Primary problem is when you are spiking your blood sugar too quickly. And when you do that, there are very specific indicators that you can learn to recognize so that you actually know exactly when you've started to gain weight. So have you ever eaten a really incredible meal and then shortly afterward, you're feeling very, very sleepy? You're feeling very, very groggy and tired? Well, that is your first indicator that you have just spiked your blood sugar and that you are gaining weight. And the reason that you will experience that grogginess is because your body's going to have too high of a blood sugar, release insulin, and then suddenly you're going to have too low of a blood sugar because all that excess sugar has been absorbed as fat. The second indication is that you will start feeling hungry again pretty shortly after you've eaten. And again, it's due to pretty much the same mechanism, which is you spiked your blood sugar too high, and then your body stored all the excess sugar as fat, and now you're having low blood sugar again, and your body's sending you messages that it's time to eat once more. The third indication is that you will have very strong cravings for sugars or carbohydrates. Again, for the same reason. Your blood sugar is now way too low, and your body is trying to get you to eat more sugar. So those three indicators are: you feel tired and groggy shortly after eating, you feel hungry again shortly after eating, or you have sugar cravings or carbohydrate cravings shortly after eating. And if you're experiencing those things, then you can safely know that you have just gained some weight. So now that you know what causes you to gain weight and how to even recognize when you're gaining weight, how does one go about starting to lose weight? So the primary thing to realize is that the majority of your weight gain is being caused by processed and refined foods. And if you can start taking those foods out of your diet and eating more whole natural foods, you can stop gaining weight. And I have videos out the wazoo talking about which foods to eat and which foods to avoid, and we'll actually provide links to all of those at the end so you can get some actual lists of which foods to eat and which to avoid. In this video, we discussed why you gain weight and how you can stop gaining weight. But in a future video, we're going to talk about how you can start losing weight. Now, the weight loss industry rakes in $40 billion a year selling you diet pills, prepackaged diet meals, and other diet programs. But the truth is that you don't have to buy any of those things. You don't have to spend any of that money to lose weight. And in a future video, we're going to tell you how you can start losing weight without buying any of those products. It really, really works. So if you would like to learn what the top 10 obesity-causing foods are, then you can click on my video right over here. And if you'd like to learn about what's the difference between whole foods and processed foods, you can click right here. And if you're interested in figuring out why junk foods are so bad for you and how junk foods are actually designed to make you fat and make you feel addicted to the foods, you can watch this video down here. And if you've ever wondered what happiness has to do with boob jobs, you can click right here.